Okay, thank you everyone. So the next speaker is Rene Schallner, who is going to show us I guess the length that he had to go through to get slideshows, like the depth of his hatred of PowerPoint, I guess. Or something like that. We'll see. I don't know. Well, give him a warm welcome.
Thank you. It's really nice to see so many people interested in SIG, like in one place. Because for me, I discovered SIG, I don't know, maybe not a year ago or something, and I'm the only one I know who likes to write SIG code. So that's actually quite an improvement now. And I want to share my hatred for PowerPoint, that's correct. I think maybe in all other regards I'm going to disappoint you, I don't know. But as I told some of you guys before, this is like probably the only 15 minutes in time, in history, that my little SIG project will get any attention. So maybe the same also goes for me. So we have to go every single point of this now. Yeah, you can read it. Okay, cool. So I started programming like 35 years ago, which means I'm also old, not only Andrew. Yeah, so I started my, well, I'm not going through all of them. So I did a lot of telecommunications, like server-side, no GUI stuff whatsoever. Then transitioned to, surgical navigation, and I'm also very interested in embedded work. I have an electronics background. Now I'm a researcher and play with robots and AIs. And I think what's important is that I got socialized during the good old C64 days. Maybe some of you can remember. These were really special to get into computing because you had a computer that you could understand. And so the natural progression was you stumble around a bit in BASIC, and then you switch straight to assembly, and you learn how the graphic chips work and the sound chip works and everything, so it's really cool. Now I do a little bit of SIG, like with this project, and obviously in my programming history, did a lot of C++, assembly, and now for work it's more like Python and then weird stuff like Dart and Flutter to do some online stuff. And also Lua because I like NeoVim. It even says so on my badge, I code in NeoVim. I think that's important. So I have some other open source projects that hardly anyone knows. Most of them are related to note-taking, the Settle custom system. I won't go into them, but I've had quite a journey behind me, starting with a Sublime Text plugin, then being criticized for what happens if Sublime Text disappeared. Then I made the Sublime Less version in Python, which was a pain, making an executable on multiple platforms in Python with all these weird executable generators. I had to patch like 3 of them, one for Mac, one for Windows, and one for Linux. Something I'm kind of proud of is I built my own CPU when I was, much younger, because I'm old. When I was much younger, I had this idea. I was so fascinated by what you could do with the C64, but I also noticed it's quite a big and clunky machine. So how could you use this kind of CPU power in like other projects? You need a very simple CPU, and so I decided to build my own, and eventually I built it. And something also cool, I built some sunglasses with a USB camera that uses deep learning to detect brand logos. But that's enough about me, I would say. I hate PowerPoint. Well, let's keep just to this point. Yeah, I really hate PowerPoint, and I had to use it for so long. As I said, I've become a researcher now, which means I work in a research institute, and where people, starting with our boss, are obsessed with PowerPoint. I mean, it goes even that far that before you start writing something like an article, make some PowerPoint slides before, so we can discuss it, we can share and discuss it, have a meeting and go through slides, and then this is really like was driving me crazy. I want to work on Linux, I want to work in NeoVim, I know all the shortcuts now, so I don't want to stumble around with the mouse and then try to align some object, but there's 2 other objects in the way, so it doesn't find the guide for the center of the slide and stuff like that. And you have like a Windows version, a Mac version, a browser version, a Microsoft Teams version, a Microsoft Teams in the browser version, an iOS version and an Android version, and they all kind of behave differently. And it's a mess, and we have to, or I have to, we always do very, like you'll see, this is one example of it, text-heavy presentations. I mean, here there's not so much long form, like whole sentences, but that's basically what we kind of, should do all day, I guess. Creating PowerPoint presentations and then discussing them. Really, really nice. And I am into note-taking. I even wrote 3 note-taking things, projects. And so I take my notes in Markdown, and I realized Outlook, you can paste Markdown in, like bullets and stuff. It will do it. PowerPoint, no. But I want to reuse my Markdown notes, because the reason I'm taking notes is so I have something stored somewhere, so I can talk about it later. I can put it on the PowerPoint, but sorry. So maybe enough about PowerPoint. The other motivation is I've long searched for a way to create good software. I will go into this more. But for me, trying out SIG was, yet another attempt of exploring, can I make some GUI program that is for me, that I like, maybe I want to share with others, that's portable, efficient, still easy enough to code, yet low level and safe, doesn't crash. So that's kind of, I wanted to test SIG with a real use case that I could benefit from. Oh yeah, and I was also inspired by John Blow. If you don't know him, you should know him. And I'll describe him as, quite famous indie game developer. And he didn't put up with PowerPoint either. He wrote his own. And I thought, yes, I'm going to be just like one of my heroes. I'll write my own and I'll show it to everyone. And here I am showing it to you. So as I said, and I cannot say it often enough, PowerPoint led to a lot of frustration in my life. It should be no more PowerPoint from now on, especially on Linux, because what can I do on Linux? I don't even want to whine about Wine. I use PowerPoint in the browser and it's frustrating. So I created my first replacement for PowerPoint using the Godot engine, which was awesome. It was just, when the pandemic hit and we were all locked down, I thought, well, if I have a whole game engine, animations in PowerPoint, I have a game engine. I can have a whole 2D platformer game with sound and animation and everything and multiple lives in one slide. And then I also went on to create multiplayer presentations out of a need. And the need was a colleague of mine and we often present together. She's not here now because she doesn't program. But we often present together, but we were all locked down in separate places. So we needed a multiplayer mode for our presentations. And I created it. You can look it up. You had a server, and then you could join a room, and then you had up to 4 players. Everybody got their own colored laser pointer, and everybody could draw in their own color and control the presentations. Really useful. And because it was like Godot and Godot script and stuff, it was Git friendly, which is also something I like, because try versioning a PowerPoint presentation. This is a mess. And so joy was in my life, but Using Godot was, feeling a bit like cheating, and I discovered SIG. And multiplayer, when we went out of lockdown, wasn't that important anymore. So I thought, yeah, okay, let's give SIG a try, and create my toy example. And so the main purpose was to test, can I create something like a GUI app in SIG that's cross-platform. And something I want to point out is when I started programming on the PC after the C64, I really fell in love with the BGI. I don't know if anyone still remembers it, the Borland graphics interface in Turbo Pascal and Turbo C. It was really awesome. I mean, these were the VGA times and super VGA times, and if you were unlucky, it was EGA time for you. But that was a cool API, and I was looking for something like that. And so my toy example, what else should it be? It should be robust. It shouldn't, depend on a framework like quite recently I know Flutter a bit, where things can go wrong and you have no idea where. There should be no garbage collection, no HTML, and I don't know what BS stands for. It should also be correct, because I know I produce bugs. Yeah, who doesn't? But at least the programming language should allow me to create correct software and not be able to handle out of memory situations and stuff like that, or the garbage collector halting an entire system. Actually, I don't want to go into this tangent. Ask me later if you're interested. But I've been involved in a root cause analysis at some big telecom operator in Germany, where for a day all prepaid customers were unable to make phone calls because some garbage collector was halting one system that led to other systems disconnecting because they thought it was dead, and reconnecting, and because the retries failed so much, it kind of propagated through the whole network. So garbage collection and stuff is really dangerous. It should be memory friendly, obviously, so we don't want to waste memory or thrash memory. I don't want a dependency hell, so I want to know, what my program consists of, and not like Andrew, import like 500 million Node.js packages, which is a fair thing to do if you want to get something done. But I not only want to get something done, I want to get it right. I want minimal runtime dependency. That also has to do with being able, like in the C64 times, to share your software. Here is my executable, download it from there. Oh no, it's a zip file. And when you start it, it doesn't start because there is some DLL missing and you have to install some Visual Studio.NET redistributable blah. No. And it should be fast. So, to sum it up, at least in theory, I have to read this, at least in theory, I want to be able to show that it's possible to make good and fast software that doesn't crash, doesn't eat all my RAM, and can be shared easily. Is that too much to ask? We did it in the C64 times. We had floppy disks, but we could share software, and it didn't suck. So, I don't know why this is named usability and portability, but let's talk about requirements or features that also came to mind. So I wanted easy markdown formatting for my text-heavy presentations. This is a lot of text, as you can see, and all the other slides were basically text. I wanted a laser pointer. A laser pointer, press L for laser pointer. That's animated, so it pulsates a little bit, very slowly, but anyway, and can be resized. And I also want to be able to draw on my slides, so I can clear it and undo the laser pointer. Sorry, I'm a typical male, I think. I can't do two things at the same time. I can't speak and control a laser pointer. And I also wanted simple positioning, not dragging stuff with the mouse and snapping it somewhere and stuff. No, I want coordinates. I want pixel coordinates. I know my canvas is 1920 by 1080, and I want to say go from 800 to 1000 on the X coordinate. Fast and reliable and Git friendly, and a built-in editor like we have here. And yeah, it's ImGUI based, so the whole editor is an ImGUI stuff, and the editor also follows you around, so you don't need to search in the text. What else can we do? Clicker support, yay! Yeah, I won't show exports now, but PowerPoint export. That was the cool one. Yes, I can cheat. I can come with a PowerPoint presentation that's actually not a PowerPoint presentation and later share it as a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, so it should run on Linux, Windows, and maybe also macOS. I don't know who actually uses macOS. Not me anymore. I came to not like it so much anymore. And also I switched dependencies because I didn't invent all of this stuff. So like ImGUI bindings for SIG, I use some existing ones and I've switched to one that has no macOS support. But maybe, we'll see later. Super quick slide creation, which means I want to work in a text editor like NeoVim, like I mentioned. I like working in NeoVim, and just paste something from my notes, and basically just write Markdown. And yeah, as I showed, there should be no difference between editing and presenting. Why should there be? I mean, if you want to edit, you edit, but you don't actually use this editor. You would usually use like a real editor like NeoVim. And yeah, that's my idea of how this stuff should work. And by the way, this whole thing is like a 30-minute or 40-minute live demo. And so a bit about the syntax. As you can see, we have some. I'll try this thing. I won't go into details. So here we can see I can push stuff on something like a stack, like an intro title, and give it pre-filled stuff, and then I can push many things as a slide. And so an intro title, intro subtitle, intro authors, push slide intro, and then I can pop slide intro and just give it a text. And here you can see my weird kind of formatting for colors and other things, like you can do bold, italic, and stuff like that. So, rendering. Rendering in SIG, at least the way I do it, works like this for presentations. First of all, I just use an arena allocator. Actually, two of them, but let's say one. Then I parse the whole markdown using finite state machines that produces like text spans and boxes and images. All very basic stuff. And then I pre-render it into, I do all the layouting, because I mean, the slides are static. So I can lay them out ahead of time. I call the things that are created render objects and put them in an array list per slide. Oh, I can show you Inspector Gadget. Anyone remember Inspector Gadget? Yeah, so here is my version of it. That's my Inspector Gadget. And yeah, so sorry, I can't use this trackpad. What it does, it shows you the render objects. So the background is this little thing in the top left corner that has size 0, because why store the size of the background? It's always the same. And so you can change stuff here. You can say, what's my next render object? Oh, it's the slide number, and here we have the title, and we can increase the font size or slide it down a bit or stuff like that. So you can play around it, but basically just, I don't know why I did it. I felt like it, I guess. But maybe this will one day also turn into some graphical editing capabilities, because these changes, they don't persist. While I do keep for each render object the location in the markdown thing, it can get pretty complicated with all this pushing and popping going on. So I'm not sure, maybe. Yeah, and then basically all the thing needs to do is draw the pre-laid out, pre-calculated render objects of the current slide. And theoretically, it does it fast. So fast, haha, let's come to the elephant in the room, the 16,000 frames per second. I have to say, no display can do 16,000 frames per second. When I first came up with this, whoa, my slideshow can do 16,000 FPS, I immediately made a follow-up YouTube video. I have like 2 subscribers, and explained that it doesn't really mean anything. It just means we can render pretty fast, so in a very short amount of time. Usually we would VSync anyway, so like achieve 60 frames per second. It basically means we have so much time left for do even more complicated slides. And I also have to say, this was, I thought my computer at home is nothing special, like not very new Ryzen with some not very expensive GPU, a Radeon 9600. But as I discovered, and this is where I'm going to disappoint you, this old laptop here, which is my kind of travel laptop and go to conferences and stuff. So if it gets stolen, don't steal it, but if it gets stolen, it wouldn't be a great loss. It's many years old, and here I'm also using the built-in Intel graphics, and it's far away from 16,000 FPS. So I don't even want to try. When I last looked, it was a few hundred, but with this setup, I'm not sure anymore. So with VSync, you see, I don't know why it's doing that. We have, yeah, if I switch it off, we have a bit less than 16,000. So I'm very sorry to disappoint you, but the title was there to catch your attention anyway. On a modern computer, I would say 10,000 frames per second should be no problem. I mean, it's just displaying static stuff anyway. And so still, if we try to animate stuff, yeah, it looks better on my display. If we try to animate stuff, we can see it's still fast enough to, there's plenty of time to do weird stuff. So even if it's just a few hundred frames per second. So, oh yeah, now maybe let's go to some SIG stuff. C integration. Blew me away. It's probably not new for any one of you, but I needed to put it in because I was so blown away. If you, I mean, with SIG, you suddenly have the whole world of C libraries at your fingertips, and you don't even need to write bindings. You know, coming from Python and stuff, this is really huge. So, despite the fact that some of these might be in some standard library, I basically just included the header files of libpng, which also needs libc, and then for zipping properly for PowerPoint, I used zlib. And basically, this is what's in my build SIG file, maybe. So I just say these are the source files. These are the directories to the header files. Let's auto-generate one missing source file, and boom, that's it. You can call C functions from SIG. That's actually easier than doing it in a C project, because you don't have to put up with like C make lists or make files or configures and stuff. It's really cool. And then I thought, hey, can I do the same thing with C++? Kind of. Because, for example, I wanted some file dialog, like maybe I can show it, yeah, file open or something. And there was an existing one, so I tried to use it, but even though it had some like C-like API, it used like the context structure, which was a class, and I didn't know how to deal with that. But then it's so super simple to one-to-one translate stuff from C++, at least when it has a function API, to SIG that I basically just said, well, F the classes, let's just make them void pointers. And yeah, that's it. Super simple. Being so excited about using or being able to integrate C++ in SIG, I also went ahead and implemented some enums and stuff. And so what I did is the bare minimum, just to get stuff working. Of course, using SIG, you can probably make things more type safe and everything. But most of you will know more about that than me, so I'll spare myself the humiliation. Next steps, I don't have time. I have something that works, could be better, but it works. But the plan still is to have more time to work on it. And probably build on top of, I pronounce it Mach base. I'm not sure what the guy over there says to that. Yeah, so be prepared. I'm going to attack tomorrow. I'll come to your desk. Because what I want is this experience. What's your catch phrase?
Zero fuss dependencies?
Yeah.
Zero fuss installation.
Yeah, on even on macOS. So could be an easy win. Yeah, then play and have fun. So work on the syntax of the whole thing, turn the inspector gadget into graphical editing, do some, funny animations so I don't need to hide behind, the Godot version. Slide transitions maybe if I'm fancy or something. But the takeaways, why I stick with SIG. It's well suited for high frames per second, performant, reliable, cross-platform software. At least that's how I think of it. The custom memory allocators being, something you kind of must do, is really cool, really helps. And it has great options in the standard library. You don't have to implement your own arenas and stuff like that, so that's cool. You are in full control of the memory layout, just like in C. You are in control of out-of-memory errors better than in C. Yeah, I already mentioned the standard library is pretty good, so you don't need to invent your own allocators, array lists, hash maps, and whatnot. It's low level like C, but in my eyes, much more comfy. There's little overhead, at runtime, no vtables and crap. Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong. There's no crap in SIG, is there? And yeah, finally, baking data into executables, like I do here with the fonts, is also super simple. So I quite like it. I stick with SIG, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Rene. That was awesome. So, any questions? Raise your hands. Also, wiggle in case I don't see you.
Wiggle.
Rene, sorry if I missed it. I have two questions actually. Does your awesome tool have a name?
Slides. It says so here. I even highlighted it for you. Come on.
Okay, now I can see it. Thank you. And you mentioned that everything is positioned in pixels, and you have like a fixed window size.
Yeah.
Are you considering like percentage-based offsets or variable-sized slides?
I thought about that for 4 seconds and concluded no. At least not for my use case. I think in pixels. I come from the C64 times, 320 by 200, and so it's already complicated for me to translate that to 1920 by 1080. Going from 0 to 1 or fractions or percentages is really hard for me. I can see that sometimes it can make sense. Like you say, okay, center is 0.5, very easy. You don't have to divide, use a calculator. But this is where the inspector gadget I secretly use to move stuff around, then copy the coordinates and paste it into the markdown. It should be easy to do, but it complicates the syntax. So should we do, instead of 800, should we do 800px? And should we do EMs? I don't know. I don't know if I like it.
I have two questions. The one, do you embed NeoVim there?
Oh no, I watch the file. I do not embed NeoVim.
Okay.
So I edit in NeoVim, like in one window I have NeoVim and the source code, and if I like, then I preview the actual slides in Slides. And when I save in NeoVim, the slide updates.
Okay. I probably know this, but since a few years ago, NeoVim can embed, so that would be cool. But I learned today NeoVim has a pretty complex build system, but that may change too.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you just take all the C files and of NeoVim and throw them into a.
You have a good person here.
Yeah.
I think to embed NeoVim, you wouldn't embed the entire source code, but you would use the RPC library, so the RPC interface.
That.
And the problem is there is a good SIG library for that.
Oh.
But it currently depends
Oh.
currently depends on async. It could be a
Okay, so I guess we should all meet at the Mach table and fix all of this. And after this weekend, we will have a great embedded NeoVim thing. Because I'm also not too happy about the built-in editor. That's why I said, okay, it's okay if you want to, make small corrections. But if you want to author a presentation, a 40 slides presentation, you wouldn't do it in this editor. Yeah.
So the older you get, the harder it is to remember things. And
What did you just say?
I'm sure there was something in the presentation, but I don't remember. Do you have any thing for speaker notes or something like that?
No.
Oh.
I also didn't have it in the bullets version, the Godot version, and I made, in the README, it says, or in the sample presentation, it says, we present from the heart anyway. we don't need notes. I mean, who needs notes? But yeah, fair point. It doesn't really fit into the whole concept of presenting is the same as editing and stuff. Where would we put them if we only have one canvas? But yeah, so dual monitors and stuff. Oh, Andrew. Hey, Andrew.
In the Godot version, you said that you had.
This is about the SIG version, right?
But I want to know what happens when you run out of lives.
When what?
If you run out of lives, then.
Oh, well, I think the lives there one-to-one correlate with the biological lives. So, no, when you run out of lives in the platformer, there is no what you call the little guy. There is no guy left. So you have to advance to the next slide, or it would be boring.
How did you choose what rendering API to use, and what were the factors that went into it?
That's actually the first good question. Because I was asking this myself, and I just wanted to get going, and so I just used whatever ImGUI provides. So I used the ImGUI draw lists.
Right, but like Vulkan or OpenGL or.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I just used what came easiest. So at the moment, I'm vendoring in something on GitHub. It's called ZT, which does the GLFW or whatever it's called, and OpenGL for me. So I interface. I pretty much only interface with ImGUI calls.
Awesome, thanks.
But we'll change that.
Just a tiny note. The link is incorrect.
Because the special character goes on the other side of your username.
You're right.
The tilde.
Damn it. Don't take pictures, guys.
Okay. Any more questions?
Is it? How is it on my T-shirt? Oh, you can take a picture of my T-shirt because here it's okay.
So I have one final question for you, maybe two. Would you consider re-adding multiplayer support in the future?
It's my sick programming toy, and everything that's fun is on the table. So it's just, point one was I don't have time.
Right.
But this is seasonal. So if my research projects, they usually culminate around this time. And then over Christmas is the time where I have most free time until February or something. So maybe, yeah.
Yeah, because in this showtime we had a couple of situations where we had speakers wanting to present together, but they both were remote, not only in regards to me, but also in regards to each other. And we had to, come up with protocols where one person pulls the slide forward, the other person, and either they know the timing or they have to ask, but hey, it's multiplayer.
Yeah. Until then, feel free to use the Bullets version. It's also on my source hub. I've Dockerized the server because there is a central server. I have an instance running on DigitalOcean. So if push comes to shove, you can always use that. And the Godot editor, it's a 25 megabyte download. And then you have like templates for different kinds of slides, and so you could use it. But it's not the SIG way.
Yeah, it's not the SIG way. Although, you know what I just came to my mind? Wasn't for supports multiplayer out of the box. Maybe a tiny slide program for what? Cross-compiling to Wasm.
Yeah, good you said that.
Also, once we add multiplayer, we need to have a chat about root boxes. I have a few interesting things.
Yeah, awesome. Wasm, of course, also helps in sharing software, but maybe I didn't mention it. I don't like, that's why I also don't use Reveal.js or Impress.js or stuff. I want to, come anywhere, not need internet, just my own software, maybe on a USB stick, and present the way. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, please, a round of applause. That was awesome.
Thank you.